The government unveils new powers to approve onshore wind farms. We're going to read into this more from the BBC, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from the BBC with the headline that the government unveils new powers to approve onshore wind farms. The government has unveiled plans to give ministers the final say on approved large onshore and wind farms rather than leaving decisions to local councils where opposition has been fierce. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. Now, there's a lot of people who are no doubt going to be upset about this, but I'm with the government on this decision. As we'll read into the report in a moment, there has been a decrease in the production of wind farms. One of the biggest problems is the phrase of "not in my backyard" nonsense that you hear a lot from people, especially, and this is the same rhetoric that you get when it comes to houses as well. If we are to move forward, particularly here in England in particular, we have to start building things. We have to start getting things sorted. Now, considering that we are an island and this island has a lot of wind passing through it, it makes logical sense for us to have more wind farms. Now, I'm more approval of offshore wind farms rather than onshore. I think we should be building a lot more offshore wind farms rather than onshore, in my personal opinion. However, I also believe that if building more onshore wind farms means that we become less reliant on oil and gas, and eventually will lead to us keeping our freezing our energy prices or perhaps even lowering them, then I'm all for that. We should be, as a nation, be trying to rely less on oil and gas and rely more on green renewable energy, considering that there is literal energy all around us in this here. So while I do approve of this, I also understand the anger towards the onshore wind farms, because I understand this perception that you don't really want to be you don't want like every single countryside to be filled with onshore wind farms. Totally understand that. But there have been too many times when it comes to making a case for an onshore wind farm, it just keeps getting rejected by the councils, not getting approved by the councils. And this is where the government needs to say, right, well, we need to take this. And the government's option is basically saying, right, well, we're taking this away from you because for too long you've been blocking the way of this. And unfortunately, while there is going to be consultation with the public need to understand that this needs to happen. We do need to have more wind farms. I think it's very, very important that we do. So this is something that I'm in agreement with even if people disagree with it. So the plan is among proposals announced by the Energy Secretary Ed Miliband on Friday, so that's today as this recording. It's part of what the government is calling an ambitious action plan for reaching 95% clean energy in the UK by 2030. So Miliband wants to give powers to the energy regulator to prioritise projects in the queue waiting to link up with the national grid. But the Conservative Shadow Secretary of State for Energy Security Claire Coutinho said the plans would simply push bills even higher. Now, explain the logic to me. Generally someone explain me into the logic. I want someone in the comment section to explain to me how pushing for more wind production will push energy bills higher. How exactly does that push energy bills higher? The government wants to bring large onshore wind projects back into National Significant Infrastructure Projects, the NSIP regime in England, in line with other energy infrastructures. Labour plans would mean the government would have the final say on approved wind farm projects larger than 100 milliwatts, rather than councils. Coutinho said Labour's rush to decarbonise the electricity system by 2030 will push up electricity prices and cause more hardship for people across Britain. Again, how is building more energy, building more wind farms, how is that bumping up energy prices? That I'm trying to understand the logic here. We need cheap, reliable energy, not higher bills, she said. Well, it is cheap, reliable energy. We're an island. But Miliband told BBC Breakfast on Friday that the current reliance on gas leaves consumers vulnerable to price changes, and that's 100% true. At the moment, we are at the mercy of the roller coaster of fossil fuel markets. Gas prices are subject to the decision of petrostates and dictators, he said. It's time to have homegrown clean energy that we can control. Onshore wind has been one of the cheapest forms of energy, but there has been a 94% decline in projects in England since 2015 when the previous Conservative government tightened planning regulations for wind farms, following pushback from local communities over potential environmental damage. Yeah, this is the problem. A lot of, respectfully to a lot of older generations have been very much vocal against any kind of wind farms outside their backyards. There are some places where they shouldn't be built, but there are some where there's logic behind it and it needs to be done on that. So subsequently, only a small number of local objections would be enough to effectively block new projects. Following Labour's general election victory, planning rules for onshore wind were eased in September 2024, but renewable energy groups said they did not go far enough. The public will still be consulted on new wind farms, but the Secretary of State will be empowered to take any final decision based on national priorities such as tackling climate change. Mr. Miliband told the BBC's Today programme on Friday that these are difficult trade-offs are here, and unless we change the way we do things, we are going to be left exposed as a country. In the end, it will be a national decision. The government maintains any projects will need to have direct community benefits and establish a recovery fund to invest in nature projects as a compensation for any environmental damage. Yep, 100% agree with all that. The 136-page action plan to be released today will also include other measures to accelerate renewable energy. This is expected to include prioritising projects to enable an early connection to the electricity grid and incentivising private investment. Yeah, I know, this is the one. Yeah, people don't want us putting the government's taxpayers' hands in their pockets. But yeah, private investment. The government wants to move away from a first-come, first-served approval process for the grid and prioritise those likely to be most useful. There are currently thousands of projects waiting in the queue to be approved to be connected to the UK grid. If all the projects will be given the go-ahead, 739 gigawatts of energy would be added to the system, 14 times the amount of renewable energy the country currently has. Labour projects that these reforms could attach £40 billion a year from mainly private investment in homegrown clean power projects. The industry has been calling for many of these measures for the years and broadly welcomes the plans. Lucy Yu, CEO of think tank Central for Net Zero, said the Clean Power Action Plan shows that the government isn't afraid to be bold, illustrated by the breadth and nature of the proposed changes. Yu, who's also a government advisor, warned ministers not to forget the central role of consumers and communities in the energy transition. The British public support will be key, and the government must ensure clean power delivery has their interests at heart. And absolutely, the interest of the people must be put at this as well. There's always going to be backlash against any kinds of onshore wind farms. There's always going to be some. And I'm not somebody who's big fan of onshore wind farms personally. I'm more of an offshore one. I think we should be pushing more and more for offshore wind farms than anything, and obviously more for solar energy as well. And that is something that's been on my mind for quite a lot when it comes to energy. I don't approve of nuclear energy, but at the same time, I also understand that it is much better than the emissions that are put out by coal, gas, and oil, for example, as well. So this will obviously help us drive us towards more net zero, which I think is really, really a good thing. This is something that we should be striving towards. Obviously, we'll have to see as time goes on how more of those plans come of age. And obviously, there is going to be like I said, there is going to be people who just don't want nothing to do with it. They just don't want it in their backyard. But the reality is, this is something that has to happen, and I'm on the side of government when it comes to this in this project in particular. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think about onshore wind farms? Do you think with me that it should be more offshore wind farms? Do you think we should be relying on other kinds of energy instead? Rather than being at the mercy of oil and gas companies, maybe we should be relying more on nuclear, maybe some of you guys think, or hydrogen, or perhaps other energy infrastructure projects. Let me know your thoughts and more on all of these down in the comments section below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button, we'd greatly appreciate it. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. If you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.